What's up, guys? I'm back. We're going to have a talk today about this peace plan, peace proposal that the United States has put on the table for Russia and Ukraine to sign. So if you're looking for the high-speed combat footage, we got hundreds of videos on the channel. Go click out of this one and go check those out. This is about the peace deal, breaking it down so people understand, hopefully without too much of a bias, what this is about. Okay, so I want to preface everything with the first minute or 2 minutes of Zelensky's most recent address to the country.
Українці, українки, у житті кожної нації є момент, коли всім треба поговорити. Чесно, спокійно, без домислів, чуток, пліток, без усього зайвого. Так, як є, так, як я завжди намагаюсь говорити з вами. Зараз один з найважчих моментів нашої історії. Зараз тиск на Україну один з найважчих. Зараз Україна може опинитися перед дуже складним вибором. Або втрата гідності, або ризик втрати ключового партнера. Або складні 28 пунктів.
This is the most important part to me, or what I wanted to focus on. He says,
Або втрати ключового партнера.
we are at a time we need to make a difficult decision, either the loss of our dignity or the loss of a key partner, referring to the United States of America.
Або складні 20.
The difficult 28 points, the 28 points on this peace deal, or an extremely hard winter, basically saying no more support from the U.S. and Russia's going to keep hammering us here in Ukraine, and we have to fight.
28 пунктів, або вкрай важка зима. Найважча та подальші ризики. Життя без свободи, без гідності.
A life without freedom, without dignity, without justice.
Без справедливості. І щоб ми вірили
And that we
тому,
trust someone
хто напав вже
who is, and then trusting Russia, who's already attacked Ukraine twice.
двічі. Від нас чекатимуть відповідь. Хоча
They will expect an answer from us. So Trump has put on the table that he wants an answer if Zelensky will be signing this peace deal on behalf of Ukraine and the Ukrainians come November 27th, which is in just a handful of days. Okay, so let's break down this peace deal. I want to tell you right out of the gate, I don't like it, straight up, and I'm gonna explain to you why. But I'm also gonna try to keep things as unbiased as possible, since this is gonna be more of an educational video rather than an opinion piece. Okay. So this is Deep State Map. We use Deep State a lot. It basically almost shows real-time updates on the front line here in Ukraine. For those of you who don't know, my name is Saxon. I go by Vegas here in Ukraine. I first came to Ukraine in January of 2023. I joined the International Legion for the defense of Ukraine, which was just disbanded actually yesterday. No more International Legion for the defense of Ukraine. Very interesting. I was in the Legion. I was only there for a handful of months. I deployed to Kupiansk, right up here, which is now taken by the Russians. I deployed to Kupiansk, fought here on the front line for about a month and a half, and then left here, went back home, basically packed all my shit, and then moved out here, joined a group called Azov, and I've been with Azov ever since. That's just my story. Before that, in the U.S., I was a firefighter and an EMT in a small town outside of Fort Worth, Texas. Okay, so just to give you a background. So here's what I want to explain about the peace deal when it comes to territory. Okay, so Russia has basically agreed to the terms if and only if they are allowed to keep, let me see if it shows it here. Yes. All of Luhansk. Okay, this is Luhansk region right here. It's almost all Ukrainian or Russian controlled as it is, but that is Ukrainian territory. That was before the 2014 initial invasion, before the big war. This was all Ukrainian. Okay? Hairball, sorry. You're all right, baby. All right, get it up. I'm kind of in the middle of something here. Okay, we got it. Get it out. All right, sorry about that. So the red right now is what Russia has occupied since the 2022 full-scale invasion. The purple is what they occupied in the 2014 invasion, including Crimea and this part of Luhansk and Donetsk. So with that said, Russia wants all of Luhansk, so all of this red and purple region here, including the little bit that Ukraine still holds on to over here. Okay, down here, this is Donetsk. Let me see if we can have a better picture of that. Oh, great! We got the drill construction workers going. Awesome. Okay, whatever. Donetsk is right here. You could kind of see it's covered up. All these red marks, by the way, are Russian units. If we take a look, we click 3rd Motorized Rifle Battalion from the 114th Infantry Brigade, 1,438 for 38th Motorized Rifle Regiment, blah, 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 okay? So Russia wants all Luhansk, all of Donetsk down here. They want to keep Crimea. And then as far as any of the other the front lines, like here in Kherson and also over here in Zaporizhia, they want to freeze the front line. And wherever the Russians have made progress, they will take that and announce it as official Russian territory. Okay, so everything that's red right now, plus the rest of Donetsk, which, let me see if I can point it out here, is basically this. It's a lot of territory. It's like all of this right here. The rest of this and all the red and purple that's already on the map, they want to retain and hold. They refuse to give any of that back. Now, what they are saying that they will return, and this is just a slap in the face. They're saying part of this, no, not Kupiansk, it's over near Kharkiv. Yeah, basically it's up here, or it's similar to this, but it's a couple of zones around these size that Russia is willing to give back to the Ukrainians in exchange for a quarter of their country. Okay? So I wanted to be clear about that. This is, and of course, keeping the already preoccupied Crimea, which is ridiculous. Okay, so that's where they want. Basically, as you can see here, as the borders are drawn, but with the including this piece here, Kramatorsk, Sloviansk, Pokrovsk's in here, right here, Toretsk. So this large portion here, they also want, because that's the rest of the Donbass, that's the rest of Donetsk. Okay, they want all of that, and then that's just the land portion of the peace deal. Okay, now it's a 28-point deal, and I'm not going to cover everything, but I do want to cover the things that, in my opinion, are the biggest deal. This is Axios. I believe they're pretty a pretty reputable news source. You're welcome to pull this up and read through this on your own time, but I want to cover the most important things, in my opinion. So, between the lines, Zelensky described the plan as the U.S. vision, but not a final offer. He said Ukraine had been clear about its red lines and would give its input to make the plan truly meaningful. Basically meaning we're kind of expecting a counter proposal from Zelensky and Ukraine, a counter peace plan, because you'll see here a lot of this they can't sign. Okay, so the full plan. Number one, Ukraine's sovereignty. Wow, my brain fell out. Basically, Ukraine's freedom will be confirmed. Okay, whatever the fuck that means. It was before as well. It was before 2014 when they invaded, and then after that it was also confirmed, and then Russia invaded in 2022. So, okay. A comprehensive non-aggression agreement will be will be concluded between Russia, Ukraine, and Europe. All ambiguities of the last 30 years will be considered settled. Sure. So they'll just basically be like, all right, well, the drama we've had in the last 3 decades, everybody forget about it, please, and we're moving on. Dialogue held between Russia and NATO, mediated by the United States to resolve all security issues. Okay, so this is a big one to me. The size of the Ukrainian armed forces will be limited to 600,000 personnel. Okay, so let me explain. And here it says, no, Ukraine's army currently has 800 to 850,000 personnel and had around 250,000 before the war, according to Ukrainian official. And I've seen higher numbers than this, 850,000, but let's use that as our ballpark here. So not only is this deal asking for the Ukrainians to give up a quarter of their territory, which was stolen from them illegally by a terrorist nation and a terrorist dictator, okay? But also, they're being told, hey, just trust us, they won't invade again, and let's also make your military much smaller, okay? So, to give an example of maybe for some of my Americans, because I can speak on that a little bit because I'm an American from the U.S., I see this as if, let's say Mexico, for example, invaded and took 20% of the United States. Okay, they killed thousands and thousands of men, and they also killed, murdered women and children and did unspeakable things to them as well. They also have a ton of Americans in captivity, okay, and they're torturing them currently. Okay, so think about that. All right, and now think that another country comes and says, hey, you need to sign this or else you're in trouble, okay? And on this thing they want you to sign, it says you need to have a smaller military from now on. Every single American would tell them to get fucked. And I know I've got a decent American viewer demographic. Please tell me in the comments if you understand what I'm saying. So, European fighter jets will be stationed in Poland. Who gives a shit? Whether they're stationed in Poland or the United States or Antarctica, if the coalition of the willing doesn't have the balls to use them, it doesn't matter how close they are to Ukraine. NATO agrees not to station troops in Ukraine. Another win for Putin. Ukraine agrees to enshrine its constitution that it will not join NATO, and NATO agrees that it will not admit Ukraine in the future. Another win for Putin. Okay, so far we've got mostly wins for Putin. Oh, I forgot to mention this one, number 5. Ukraine will receive reliable security guarantees. What the hell does that even mean, dude? Seriously. What does that mean? So I would want to see more of that. Okay. If Ukraine invades Russia, it will lose... Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so it says the U.S. guarantee. The U.S. will receive compensation for the guarantee. If Ukraine invades Russia, it will lose the guarantee. If Russia invades Ukraine, in addition to a decisive coordinated military response, all global sanctions will be reinstated, which Russia's been living with for the last 4 years already. Recognition of the new territory and all other benefits of this deal will be revoked. Okay, so basically saying it's off. If Ukraine launches blah, 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 Ukraine is eligible for EU membership and will receive short-term preferential access to the European market while this issue is being considered. Okay, kind of a cool little benefit. A powerful global package of measures to rebuild Ukraine, including but not limited to the creation of Ukraine development. Okay, blah, 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 blah. Basically saying the U.S. is willing to help rebuild the Ukrainian country and economy, okay? Russia will be reintegrated into the global economy. The lifting of sanctions will be discussed and agreed upon in stages as a case-by-case basis. The United States will enter into a long-term economic cooperation. Basically, we'll start trading with Russia again, and Russia will be invited to rejoin G8. Okay, sure, that seems retarded, but okay. 100 billion in frozen Russian assets will be invested in U.S.-led efforts to rebuild and invest in Ukraine. I I don't love the fact that it's U.S. led efforts, right? But I know that there is an issue in Ukraine and some corruption policies. So I do understand at the same time they don't want to say, "Hey, let's just give Ukraine a check for 100 billion and expect them to do 100% the right thing with it," right? So I understand this one a bit. The U.S. will receive 50% of the profits from this venture. Why? Because they set up this, because they initiated the peace deal? Europe will add 100 billion to the to increase the amount of investment of investment available for Ukraine's reconstruction. I'm assuming that Trump and the U.S. spoke with European leaders before just volunteering that information up, but I have seen other sources saying they have not. And basically, the U.S. is just saying, yeah, Europe will do this, Europe will do this, Europe will do this. So I don't know about that. Again, that's subject to that's what I've seen. Who knows if that's legit? More joint American and Russian working groups. Russia will enshrine its. Oh yeah, look at this. Russia will enshrine in law its policy of non-aggression towards Europe and Ukraine, which means fuck all. We already know that. Putin doesn't give a shit. It can be enshrined in a golden statue of Trump's face in Putin's office, and Putin would still go against it. He's proven that treaties and peace deals mean zero to him numerous times in the past decades. So I don't really get this part. Ukraine agrees to be a non-nuclear state in accordance with the Treaty of the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons. It removes any real playing cards from Ukraine's deck, if you will, against Russia, because Russia still has technically the second highest amount of nuclear weapons on the planet, even though we don't know how many of those can be reliably used. Still, on paper, statistically, they have the second highest amount of nukes, and we want to continue to tell Ukraine that they can't have any. Not sure why. If we're trusting Russia with nukes, why are we not trusting our ally Ukraine with nukes? Both countries, yeah, this is funny. Okay, so a couple here. So the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant will be launched under the blah, 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 and will be expected to be dispersed 50-50 between Russia and Ukraine. Let me make something clear. Zaporizhzhia is in Ukraine. That is a Ukrainian territory. So, and a power plant in Zaporizhzhia makes a lot of energy. And energy is a large portion of Ukraine's economy, GDP. They're saying Russia's going to have 50% of this. Don't know why, but okay. Both countries undertake to implement educational programs in schools and society aimed at promoting understanding and tolerance of different cultures and eliminating racism and prejudice. Okay, I don't know how we would ever enforce this. And we've seen what the Russians teach in their schools. We've seen the propaganda. Why would we ever think that they would abide by that? It makes no sense. Okay, Ukraine will adopt EU rules on religious tolerance and the protection of linguistic minorities. Can we ask anybody currently living in EU countries how this is going for them right now? Can we ask England how this is going for them? Can we ask France? How about Italy? Okay, let's ask Germany. Poland? Poland's actually doing it right, in my opinion, but this is retarded. I understand the point of religious tolerance and the protection of minority languages. Of course, that makes plenty of sense. But they should not be adopting any EU rules regarding these things. The EU has done this incorrectly, in my opinion. Again, in my opinion, this is my opinion portion. Okay, every single day I see a new riot, a new protest, about immigration laws and immigration policy in different European countries. And I see a lot of unhappy Europeans basically saying that their countries are being invaded and that they are now the minority in their home country. They are changing street names and street signs into these other countries' languages, right? So, and this is just an example. In London, they have changed some of the train station signs and direction into different languages. I'll just say it that. Okay, so not sure why they would adopt any EU rules regarding this stuff. All Nazi ideology and activities must be rejected and prohibited. Yes, of course, absolutely agreed. Territories: Crimea, Luhansk, and Donetsk will be recognized as de facto Russian, including by the United States. Again, let's just remind everybody, all the red and purple, okay, but also all of this. For the record, when I was deployed this year with Azov and I was fighting, this is where I was. I was in Donbass, I was in Donetsk, I was right up in this area. Okay, so this is, again, for me, it's sentimental because I've lost friends in these zones right here. People have died here. Americans, Brits, just people, just friends of mine, let alone other people and other foreigner units, all the Ukrainians, and Russia's saying, okay, basically spit on the memory of all of them. We'll just go ahead and have all this, please. Thank you. No. How about no? Kherson and Zap will be frozen along the line of contact. Again, this is the line of contact in Kherson and Zap. From here all the way down to the Black Sea, all the way down over here to this region here, like over near Orikhiv. All of this will be frozen, and everything behind it will now be considered officially Russian, like I mentioned before. Russia will relinquish other agreed territories it controls outside the 5 regions, which is really, really silly because this is really just 5 regions right here. So that, like I said before, there's a couple of tiny, tiny spots that Russia's saying, oh yeah, we'll give this back, no problem. But we're going to take hundreds of kilometers as in exchange. Thousands of kilometers in exchange. Ukrainian forces will withdraw from the part of Donbass or Donetsk Oblast that they currently control, and this withdrawal zone will be considered a neutral, demilitarized buffer zone, internationally recognized as territory belonging to the Russian Federation. Russian forces will not enter this demilitarized zone. Come on, dude. This is ridiculous. I can't even believe they put that in writing. That sounds so retarded. Why in the world would anybody believe this? Basically saying that this part of the where Ukraine is still holding, they will retreat. It will be considered Russian now, but Russia will put no forces in there. Dude, get the fuck out of here. After agreeing on future territorial agreements from both Russia Federation and Ukraine, undertake not to change these arrangements by force. Any security guarantees will not apply in the event of a breach of this commitment. Right. Ukraine will hold elections in 100 days. Humanitarian committee will be established to resolve outstanding issues. Blah, blah, blah. Once all parties agree to this memorandum, the ceasefire will take effect immediately after both sides retreat to agreed points to begin implementation of the agreement. All right, so again, that's that. I mean, this was long-winded, right? But this is extremely important information that I want people to understand. I had a meeting with somebody yesterday who is is very intelligent, and he said that he was watching some of my videos before we met up, and he said that he thinks sharing this information is a service because of the lack of foreigners, specifically Americans and Europeans, who get the real news, who actually see this kind of stuff, and they're not just looking at the first thing they see on TikTok, and that's how they decide their entire political ideology, their global economic ideology is all because of an Instagram reel or a TikTok post, right? This kind of stuff is what needs to be broken down and seen. And this is also, in my opinion, and feel free to disagree or agree with me in the comments here, but this deal makes the United States of America, I'm just going to say it, look like pussies, dude. Straight up vaginas. It's the truth. Basically, how I see this is Trump saying, all right, Putin, we'll basically give you whatever you want. Zelensky, shut the fuck up, do what you're told, and we're going to do this just so I can put another tally mark of a peace deal or ceasefire on my list or on my chart to show everybody how good I am and what I've done in my presidency term. That's how I see this. Again, this for me, this has nothing to do about my political beliefs again with Trump or Zelensky. This is coming from somebody who's lived in Ukraine for the last 2.5 years and also been fighting in the military and working in the military for this time. And also as an American. A lot of what's happening in this ceasefire deal, I was calling it a peace proposal, but I guess it's not. It's a ceasefire proposal. A lot of what I'm seeing here is extremely just anti-American and frankly bizarre. The fact that we are just basically bending over for Russia and saying, hey, we know you're the wrong person. I mean, you are in the wrong here. You are the aggressor here. You are the one that has broken the majority of the global law and international law. But we're going to reward you with whatever you want, and there will be no consequences. And then I hear this administration, the Trump administration, have the nerve to say strength through power, or how do they say it? Peace through strength. How is that strength? All we're doing is incentivizing other enemies of the free world to do whatever the fuck they want, because there will be zero consequences for their action. And when America is forced to intervene, we'll basically just we'll just accept whatever they tell us. So, hey, China, go ahead and invade Taiwan. Do whatever. It's all good. We don't give a shit anyways. And in a few years, we'll come in and we'll intervene, and then we'll just give China all that territory anyways. So whatever. Russia, keep going. Push into fucking Poland if you want. We'll intervene in a few months, and then we'll just let you keep Poland, and we'll move on. This is and at least the people in my circle, which are obviously biased because we're here in Ukraine, again, in the military, but then even people, my circle back in the U.S., sees this as an extremely weak position from the United States of America. The way I would have expected to see this play out, and regardless of who the president is at the time, the way I would expect the United States to respond to this would be real strength in the sense of good versus evil, bad versus, or wrong versus right. So Trump is president in this case. I would have expected him to say, hey, Putin, you shut the fuck up, because you have basically broken all the rules. You incentivized this, instigated it, and are the aggressor. You are the problem. You have been for decades. Ask any of your neighbors. Ask any of the countries bordering Russia, and they will agree. So you shut up. We're going to make this right for the Ukrainians. We're going to make this right, or attempt. There's no way they can make it right, but we're going to attempt to make this right for the Ukrainians, the lives that you have ruined, the lives that are no longer lives. We're going to make this right for the innocent people, okay? Russia is on their back foot as well. I know Ukraine is. I'm here, okay? I see it. We're not winning this war. But Russia is on their back foot, they're not doing great either. Their economy is tanked. Okay, Russia is to my knowledge, it's still, or at least it was before the full-scale war and the sanctions, it was a two-commodity or two-resource economy, gas and oil. It was, I believe. These things have been nerfed into the ground, basically. Russia is struggling. Their economy is struggling. Their inflation is double digits and rising. This needs to be handled in a much different way. We need to be putting pressure on China, pressure on North Korea, pressure on Iran, saying, stop buying shit from Russia and fueling their economy. We need, if we're not going to have the balls to intervene militarily, we need to crush them economically. Meaning we need to remove their main backers, primarily China. Okay? I hope that made sense. I definitely got into my opinion there, but sorry, it's hard not to. So whatever, if you don't like it, go watch fucking CNN or something, or Fox News. Those are also biased, by the way. At least you're getting it kind of from the source here. I am biased, but I'm very much integrated into this lifestyle. This is my home. So anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Also, we talk about this stuff all day long in the Discord, as well as all of our uncensored contents in the Discord. We've got gaming channels, movie channels, you fucking name it, history channels in the Discord, link down below. And we've got patches, which I don't have on me. We have different breed patches. I believe we still have a few left in stock. Check that out, link down below. I love you guys. We'll see you in the next video. What's up, guys? Quick update. It looks like that whole proposal that I just talked about there is actually the Russian proposal that, for whatever reason, we have been claiming or insinuating was the United States proposal to Ukraine and Russia. Very weird, very confusing situation, frankly embarrassing for the USA and the parties involved with the whole situation. But anyways, that's an update as far as that goes. So let's see what the United States and Ukraine respond with as far as their proposal. Maybe things are a lot different. I don't know. We'll see.